Lads, welcome back to Fusion YGO. Today I got Patrick with me. He's currently away at the moment. He will be right back. And we are actually recording this live. So if you guys want to be here for when these discussions actually happen, we are live streaming every Sunday. So be sure to come join us on the channel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below so you guys can get notified when we go up. Anyways, today we are going to be talking about Halq Fibrax. The last video we went over the site, the b.a.s.e.d package. But today we just want to take a quick discussion and talk about Halq in this current format and why it's a little bit of a problem.
I have the controversial take on this one. I don't think it's that bad.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so this might be an actually pretty interesting discussion then. All right. So I guess I'll let you provide your point of view first because now I'm actually really curious.
Halq Fibrax allows the worst summoning mechanic, in my humble opinion, to actually be at least somewhat viable.
Okay.
If you take away Halq Fibrax, what other synchro packages, like what synchro decks can actually compete?
So at that point, you basically come down to playing more pure synchro strategies that are going to run stuff like, I think it's Junk Speeder. And then also, of course, Virtual World. Virtual World is kind of like one of the big exceptions, given that it just does everything on its own anyways. I know there's plenty of decks that can still make synchros, but the thing that I don't like about Halq Fibrax is it's kind of the same thing as the Verte problem in that it's too generic and it's too much of an enabler. That's one of the things I do not like about Halq, because then you start to see stuff like people that are literally just playing Halq Auroradon piles, where their entire goal is just to turbo out Halq Auroradon and make like 3 negates on a Borland Savage, Herald, and like sometimes a Barone. I don't know. There's just it's more opportunities to break Halq Fibrax than there are for it to be balanced in my mind. And I don't like the impact it's had on the rest of the game because so many things have been hit around it. Like where Union Carrier, like for a little while things around it got hit, but then Konami just realized, well, Union Carrier is just the issue, we'll just get rid of it. Whereas in the case of Halq Fibrax, I'm pretty sure Konami's well aware that it can be a problem card in a lot of situations, but they obviously don't want to do anything about it because it's such a big card. I mean, it's up to $70, $80 right now for just the ultra rare version, and the ulti is like $160 and up, and they've got all this extra merchandise built around it, so of course they're not going to want to hit it anytime soon.
Right.
I think like the only alternative I could see around Halq Fibrax other than them hitting that would be Auroradon. I think that'd be the only alternative I could really see.
I think Auroradon is definitely a bigger problem because it's a token generator, it's a synchro enabler.
Yeah.
I think if you take Halq Fibrax out of the let's assume Auroradon's gone. Okay, let's assume Auroradon's gone. With Halq Fibrax gone, what synchro-based strategy outside of Virtual World is actually able to compete?
The name on this one is actually kind of like misnomenclature. Dragon Link, technically. If you still had Halq, you just didn't have Auroradon. Or you said without Halq, right?
Without Halq or Auroradon.
So I still think that Dragon Link could still be pretty easy at that point, because it's not hard for them to make a level 8 synchro. And they can, or even a level 9, like making the Archfiend Bane or whatever it was.
I said synchro-based strategy.
Well, and that's fair, but that's why I say it's kind of like misnomenclature, because Dragon Link isn't just Dragon Link. It is very much its end board is mostly synchro. What?
Its end board has a lot of synchros, but that's the thing is that's a deck that doesn't need Christian Halq Fibrax at all anyway.
Yeah,
but with Halq Fibrax around, it allows other synchro strategies to be able to compete. The difference between it and Verde Anaconda is very big. Verde Anaconda allows a mechanic that has a history of broken cards to be more powerful and have easier access to them. Halq Fibrax gives an awful summoning mechanic, in my opinion. I think it's the worst summoning mechanic. It gives it the ability to actually be able to compete at a high level and gives it this one thing that it just doesn't otherwise have: consistency.
Yeah, and like I guess I can see that. I feel like a lot of it, if Halq was gone, it would just revert to like, because the thing is, Halq in general is mostly used with a lot of generic synchros, not necessarily synchro-based strategies. Because even with Halq, how many like just synchro-based strategies do you see performing well in the meta? Like most of the times, it's still just the synchro strategies that don't need Halq to play anyways. Otherwise, it's people that are just playing generic stuff like the Borland Savage, the Barone, the Herald. You know, it's not really like making any obscure synchro decks more viable. It's just a matter of people throwing together a pile of cards to make this just obscene combo that just spits out 3 negates for no reason.
It's keeping Sword Soul Tenyi in the meta, so it does help there. It's allowed Battle Wasp B Trooper to be able to compete. A weird strategy, I'm not gonna lie. I think it's
Okay,
awkward,
but
but
in the Battle Wasp B Trooper strategy, how much are you actually synchro summoning? Because most of that is link based.
there's a good amount of link summoning involved, 100%, and it does some XC summoning. But what really gives it the firepower is having access to Christian Halq Fiber X because it allows it to go into its synchro lines that are actually pretty interesting.
I mean, fair enough. So I think the only issue that I'm necessarily seeing about like letting Halq stay, like say if we banned Auroradon but we let Halq stay, well then first of all you've already got more cards on the ban list because of this one. You know, like all the tuners that got banned because of Halq, which I would love for a lot of those to come back and be playable. If you didn't have Halq or Auroradon, they'd be just fine. But in terms of like if you just left Halq and you got rid of Auroradon, I feel like people would start to get more adventurous with Halq, and they would start to realize that there's a lot more potential with it, like the Shooting Riser King Calamity play that I have. If more people started to find out and use stuff like that, I feel like this could turn into an even more degenerate combo. Like I honestly, I would much rather deal with like 3 negates and a floodgate than I would a King Calamity touching down, because that King Calamity is just ridiculous. But, you know, I feel like people would start to find more stuff like that because they wouldn't be able to just rely on Auroradon, and they wouldn't just be able to brain dead spit out combos anymore. They would have to think about it for a minute, find a new one they could just spit out brain dead, and just let it go. I feel like Halq is too much of an enabler, and just hitting the stuff around it. And this is one of those cases where hitting the stuff around it is not the answer. Like with Verte, sure, hit Verte. That one needs to be hit. But you're not hitting the fusion spells, you know, like you're not touching any of the fusion spells, you're not touching a lot of that stuff. You're just talking about hitting Verte. So I don't see why Halq, like, I mean, obviously you're right. Like, fusion strategies have some of the most broken cards in Yu-Gi-Oh history, and I get that. But at the same time, like for the sake of making a couple of like lower end decks a little more powerful, making the top end that much more disgusting. Like look at how many piles are in the format right now with the Scythe DPE, and how many of them are running Halq, because that's just they can just do stupid stuff with that. They're not playing a coherent like single strategy anymore. They're just playing a mess of cards. And I know I might sound like a hypocrite for that because I play scraps, but it's just I don't know. It's a hard one for me to justify staying in the format.
Here's how I would view it. If we hit Auroradon and Halq Fiber X remains a problem, flip it.
Okay.
But I don't think Halq Fiber X is that big of an issue.
And yeah, I guess like fair enough. It's a matter of, you know, Halq going into Auroradon, you obviously are getting rid of the Halq, so you're not using its like main phase effect during your opponent's turn to get the Synchro Monster. But if you take out the option to, then it's more likely. That's the only thing I'm thinking about. That is, it's just going to turn from one degenerate combo into another, because Halq is just such an enabler for that. That's my only concern, really. Obviously, it'd probably be a little bit less consistent, because you'd probably have to add more to the board if you didn't have the Auroradon, but it's still, once again, not like that hard to set up for a lot of decks. And then I just don't want to see it evolve into like another Scythe DPE situation that just needs to be addressed and that doesn't get addressed.
So,
That's like really what I'm worried about.
so here's what my concern is. We as a community, this is the Yu-Gi-Oh community as a whole, we always struggle with calling that everything is a big deal. Everything is a problem. All this stuff needs to get banned. This needs to get banned. That needs to get banned.
That's
Stop.
fair.
Everything can't be a big deal, and we're not always right. I can admit that I've been wrong about my thoughts on ban lists before, and it ended up being a pretty decent format. And I've been wrong when I thought it was going to be a great format, and it was a tier 0 format.
Yeah.
So
right.
I think I think the community as a whole can agree that Scythe is a problem, and
Yes.
banning Scythe is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think the community as a whole can admit that Verde Anaconda is an issue because it allows access to some of the most powerful spell cards that let you drop 3 cards from your deck.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really powerful, and I think as a community we can agree that effect inherently is very unfair.
Yeah.
I think that Halq Fiber X gives you the opportunity to Auroradon, which gives you the opportunity to make a whole bunch of level 10 and 8 and stuff synchros. And I think that Auroradon being out of the format is a more Konami move, because Halq Fiber X is a better selling point.
Yeah.
That actually deals with one of the bigger end problems, and it could be the correct hit. It could be the way that it needs to go. It should be X. It should be Auroradon, because I think if we deal with that one problem, it probably solves the rest of it to where Halky Fiber X is balanced and fair.
And like, don't get me wrong, like I definitely can see Konami 100% just getting rid of Auroradon and not touching Halq at all. I can 100% see that, just because that is a very, very Konami move. It's just like, it's a personal preference for me, and as someone who plays Halqa Fibrax, I would much rather see him gone than in the format. That is just entirely like my take on this, because I just don't like Halq as a card at all. And I gotta say it once again, this is just how it comes up. It's another one of those issues of just being too generic. You know, especially when you're looking at stuff in the format like the Brave engine now. It's so easy to just get those extra bodies out there and just slap down a random tuner. Like, you know, if you just have a hand trap in your hand and you have the Brave engine access, then you can just still make Halq and go through full combo anyways. Like, I think there should, it just needs a little bit of change to its text. I don't think the card in and of itself is like necessarily broken, but the things it can lead to because of how generic it is, I think is part of the issue. You know, I would like to see a little bit more restriction on it, and I think it'd be a little bit more balanced. But I'll definitely agree with you. Making everything a big deal is obviously not the right call. Not everything can be a big deal. I feel like something about Halq should be done, and I just hate the solution of banning things around it. That is my big peeve with Halqa Fibrax, is banning the cards surrounding it, not it itself, you know? Like, this is one of those cases where it's like the sum of its parts is greater than the whole. You know, where like all the things that it's banned are to me more worthwhile than having Halqa Fibrax. That's my personal take. So I guess
have nothing else to add. I think that comments or chat can disagree or agree with our take on Halky Fibrax and Auroradon.
Yeah, so I mean, those of you that are watching this as just a video on YouTube, yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We're definitely intrigued to see what you think about Halq. If you think it's a problem card in this format, if you think it's fine, you know, if you'd like some of the stuff around it to not be hit as much, yeah, just let us know. We're open to discussion. Obviously, we're having this discussion together between us, but we also like having it with you guys as well. So be sure to let us know down there, and we'll catch you guys all the next video or the next live stream. Once again, if you want to tune into those every Sunday morning, and make sure you subscribe so you know when we go live. All right, that's all we got for you guys today. Thank you so much, and remember, good fun. Have luck.